Chapter 100. Sealing the mountain for 100 years. At this moment, Kang Chon headed to the corpse rearing room that the disciple had mentioned, and the disciples of the corpse-catching sect that he encountered on the way were either knocked out by him or dodged by him. Before figuring out the relationship between his father and the corpse-catching sect, Kang Chon didn't want to kill the corpse-catching sect, not to mention that little girl's terrifying master was still kind to him, so naturally he couldn't be kind to him. Taking advantage of the chaos of the great battle outside, Kang Chon sneaked along the way, and in a short while he found the location of the corpse-catching sect's corpse rearing room. This place was a dimly lit sloping valley that was very wide inside like a square. Kang Chon found quite a few sarcophagi here, arranged in rows and rows, and upon careful counting, there were tens of thousands of them. From this, it could be seen that the corpse-catching sect did not know how many graveyards they had raided in order to increase their strength, and it was no wonder that they were hated by the cultivation world. Kang Chon shook his head and began to inspect them one by one, searching for the bodies of Ant King and the Grand Elder. He opened a sarcophagus, and a pungent and strong medicinal odor immediately came from it. And in the middle of the sarcophagus, a burly corpse stared at Kang Chon with wide, blood-red eyes, open and vicious. Kang Chon was immediately startled, then calmed down, could not help but curse. This girl must not die in peace, otherwise the eyes will not stare at the boss. However, he also knows that such a death is not close to the eyes of the person. Grievances are very heavy. Refined into a zombie after the power will be more powerful. Close the stone cover. Kang Chon continued to check other zombies. At this moment, the great battle outside was still incomparably tragic. After the Zhenin King and Fendu Old City Lord and their participation in the battle, the battlefield of the Heavenly Dao sect's true disciple Ao Chon and the corpse-catching sect master was shifted to the sky, and they didn't want their own party to be injured by the aftermath of their battle. The battle between these two out-of-body stage powerhouses shook the heavens and moved the earth. Even the residents of Fendu City, who were hundreds of miles away, could see the two powerful energies that were constantly colliding in the sky, and the terrifying might shocked everyone. And in the Fendu Valley, there were battle scenes everywhere. A corpse-catching sect disciple fighting in blood, a zombie roaring up to the sky. The entire corpse-catching sect was plunged into a tragic atmosphere. Among them, the old city lord of Fendu and that elder of the corpse-catching sect were the strongest, and their battle was also very intense, second only to the battle between that pair of out-of-body stage powerhouses in the sky. The two of them were on par with each other in terms of strength, and they fought so hard that the sky was darkened, and there was a mess everywhere. On the other side, the Zhenin King was invincible. None of the corpse-catching sect disciples could stand against him. Some corpse-catching sect elders summoned hundreds of zombies in a hurry before surrounding him, but they couldn't help him. Those Heavenly Dao sect's yawning stage powerhouses also fought fiercely. Compared to both sides, the corpse-catching sect was still at a disadvantage. If it wasn't for the unending stream of zombies blocking the way, I'm afraid that they would have already been defeated and retreated. At this moment, Kang Chon, who had been searching for a long time in the corpse rearing room, finally found the corpses of Ant King and the Grand Elder. Looking at these two long-lost relatives, Kang Chon's eyes were red. Some familiar memories surged to his heart. The memories of the past were as if they were yesterday. But now things are different. The former relatives have died one by one. Only he and Grandpa are left to depend on each other. Ant King, Grand Elder. Kang Chon, tears turned in his eyes as he covered the stone lid and stacked the two sarcophagi on top of each other before lifting them up with one hand and running towards the outside. Although he could put the sarcophagus inside the inverse heavenly cauldron, but at this moment in Fengdu Mountain, in addition to the little girl's terrifying master, there were also two out-breathing stage absolute powerhouses in the sky. He didn't dare to expose the existence of the inverse heavenly cauldron in front of them. Otherwise, who dared to guarantee that they wouldn't seize it by force? After all, the reasoning of the piker is not guilty of a sin, Kang Chon still knew. After Kang Chon left the corpse rearing room, there was a vibration in space, and then a black-robed old man appeared, his pair of hollow eyes looking at Kang Chon's departure from afar. "Why?" The black-robed old man's hoarse voice rang out, as if 10,000 stern ghosts were hissing. "Son of the deceased." In the underworld, an old voice came across the sky, clearly reaching the black-robed old man's ears. The black-robed old man's empty eyes instantly glowed with a glimmer of brightness, and then his figure slowly dissipated, flatly disappearing into the corpse-raising room. Outside the mountain gate of the corpse-catching sect, Kang Chon carried to sarcophagi and ran rapidly. "What's going on?" "Just now, I wanted to feel an extremely dangerous aura. How did it suddenly disappear?" Kang Chon was a bit puzzled in his heart. Just as he was walking out of the corpse rearing room, there was a steep jolt in his heart. A strong sense of crisis struck him, which shocked him while immediately running out, not daring to stop for a moment. Until he came out from the corpse-catching school, that strong sense of crisis only dissipated and disappeared, which made his heart very alarmed. No matter what, anyway, after finding Anti-King and the Grand Elder's corpse, this place is no longer my business. It's better to leave first. Kang Chon couldn't think of the cause, so he simply stopped caring. He carried the 2 sarcophagi and quickly ran towards the outside of Fengdu Mountain. Little thief, where to run? Put down the sarcophagus. There were many people outside, and Kang Chon was carrying 2 sarcophagi. His figure was immediately exposed, and he was discovered by some of the corpse-catching sect's disciples, and several silhouettes immediately rushed over. In the distance, some zombies also lunged towards Kang Chon. Obviously, in the eyes of the corpse-catching sect disciples, this person who had stolen their corpses was even more detestable. "Get out of the way, or don't blame me for being impolite." Kang Chon was instantly entangled as he raised his long black sword and slashed out a terrifying blade. Instantly, one by one, the corpse-catching sect disciples were sent flying out. However, the corpse-catching sect disciples still came in an endless stream, making it impossible for Kang Chon to get away for a while. Kang Chon was instantly on fire. "Damn, I don't want to kill people, but you guys are still forcing me to kill people." He swung his long knife and started to show no mercy, slaughtering several corpse-catching sect disciples on the spot. However, although Kang Chon was powerful, with the increase in the number of corpse-catching sect disciples and zombies, he also suffered a lot of attacks. A trace of purple blood flowed down his body into the ground. No one noticed that Kang Chon's purple blood flowed through the layers of soil towards the altar that was far away at the edge of the square, and was finally absorbed by the blood coffin on the altar. At this very moment, on the altar, in the blood coffin, a peerless beauty opened her empty eyes. This is an overwhelmingly beautiful woman. Compared to the flowers, one to be able to not know how many times stronger she has been beautiful cannot be described in words. What the fish and geese, what the closed flowers and moon are not worthy of describing her. She did not belong to the mortal world, as if she was a goddess who descended from the heavenly realm. I'm afraid that the outside world would never have thought that this blood coffin was actually sleeping in such an absolutely gorgeous goddess. And at this moment, this goddess opened her empty eyes, and an invisible sound wave was emitted from within her beautiful cherry lips. The Kang Heaven is dead. Yellow Heaven is not alive. Heaven's way. Heaven has lost its way. As if a light voice floated out from between the underworld. It resounded through the heavens and earth, clearly transmitting into everyone's ears. Even Fengdu City, which was hundreds of miles away, was shaken by this ethereal voice, and countless residents of Fengdu City were instantly shocked. And in Fengdu Mountain, at this moment, whether it was the powerful people fighting in the sky or on the ground, all without exception, their gazes were horrified as they looked towards the blood coffin on the altar. Even the crowd of corpse-catching sect disciples were no exception. Their gazes towards the blood coffin were filled with various complex emotions such as shock, surprise and doubt. The Kang heaven is dead. Yellow heaven is not alive. Heaven's way. Heaven has lost its way. The drifting voice sounded once again, as if it had passed through the ancient flood, and as if it had gone through countless mythological epochs, traveling through time and space from that distant ancient era. Everyone was incomparably shaken. This voice seemed to resound from within their souls. They were unable to detect the source of the voice, but a blood coffin steeply surfaced in their hearts, and when they thought about it carefully, wasn't it precisely the blood coffin on the altar? At once, everyone looked at that blood coffin on the altar in shock. Right at this moment, a strange change appeared. On the altar, that blood coffin suddenly erupted into a brilliant pillar of light that shot straight up into the sky, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth, and the entire Fengdu mountain trembled. Within the pillar of light, the blazing light was dazzling. The blood coffin stood up steeply, and the goddess within the coffin was also facing the crowd, and in that pair of empty eyes, a purple light suddenly erupted. Immediately, countless blood from the surrounding land converged towards the blood coffin, and was finally absorbed by the blood coffin. All of this blood was the blood of cultivators who had died in battle, from the Heavenly Tao sect's Yuanying stage side, from the Great Tang cultivation world's strongest side, and from the corpse-catching sect's disciples' side. All of the blood converged towards the blood coffin, and was finally devoured by it. And then, the divine maiden in the blood coffin's gaze became more and more radiant. And in those beautiful eyes, the purple light was incomparably dazzling and dazzling, as if they were two stars in the sky. The Kang heaven is dead. Yellow heaven is not alive. Heaven's way. Heaven has lost its way. This time, the goddess was facing the crowd, emitting an ethereal voice. The crowd was stunned, a cool air rising violently from the soles of their feet. What is this? A swindle. Who was this woman? Where on earth did the corpse-catching sect find a corpse? Surprisingly miraculous resurrection. This is too unbelievable. Resurrection of the dead that requires heaven-defying magical powers are. People are beyond shocked. Kang Chon also looked at the goddess in the blood coffin with a face full of horror. His eyeballs almost fell out. The appearance of this goddess was very familiar to him, and his childhood friend Wong Ting had a 3-point resemblance. Of course, Wong Ting's appearance was not as good as this goddess, but there was a 3-point resemblance between the two parties, and the remaining 7 points was the temperament, and Wong Ting did not have the overwhelming temperament of this goddess. Was there any connection between the two? A wave of doubt could not help but rise in Kang Chon's heart. Kang Tian is dead. Yellow sky is not alive. Heavenly Tao. Heaven has lost its way. Within the blood coffin, the ethereal voice of the absolute goddess came out, shaking the heavens, and the vast pressure spread throughout the entire Fengdu mountain range. Immediately, the heavens and earth shook, and the winds and clouds changed color. The crowd was all shocked. This shock from the depths of their souls made them tremble, especially when they saw the empty eyes of the absolute goddess. All of them couldn't help but feel a cool air rise from the soles of their feet. In their hearts, this absolute goddess gave them the creeps. Amidst the horror of the crowd, the blood coffin continued to absorb the blood of those who had died in battle. It was like a bloody mouth, devouring endless amounts of blood. And then, the pillar of blood-colored light that enveloped the blood coffin became more and more radiant, and the blazing blood-colored light was even more incomparably demonic, and everyone shuddered in horror at the sight of it. In the sky, Ao Qian, a true disciple of the Heavenly Tao sect, looked at the blood coffin on the altar in shock, and said with an astonished expression, "This is the corpse of an ancient powerhouse. You guys dare to sacrifice the corpse of an ancient powerhouse. Aren't you afraid of summoning an overwhelming demon?" He was incomparably shaken in his heart. No one knew the dreadfulness of the goddess in the blood coffin better than he did. This powerful person from the ancient times, even after dying for hundreds of millions of years, her flesh still remained so perfect, the power in front of her could be imagined. The corpse-catching sect was completely playing with fire by doing this. They wanted to resurrect the ancient powerhouse. But if they let the demons from beyond the heavens take over the corpse of this supreme powerhouse, then it would be a disaster for the entire flooded continent. Wuxia couldn't help but be shocked by the perverted tactics of the corpse-catching sect. The people in the distance were all shocked at what they heard. At this moment, they realized what the corpse-catching sect's real blood sacrifice ceremony was. The corpse-catching sect had actually expected the Heavenly Tao sect to inevitably come and attack. That's why they had set everything up.